for Jesus, it even goes almost third grade, right? They start calling him names. They start attacking who he is as a person. And they start putting labels on him. They put labels on him like blasphemer, idolater, saying the things about him that are actually opposite of who he is. Hypocrite, demon-possessed, lunatic. They said he was a lunatic. He's insane. And all these labels pile up and pile up and pile up. And Jesus carries them and carries them. And he carries them right into Pilate's office. Okay? It ends him up in Pilate. These labels, the self-hatred-induced labels, end him up in Pilate's office. Jeff read this. This was in Matthew 27. When he was accused by the chief priests and the elders, he gave no answer. Then Pilate asked him, do you hear what they're saying about you? Do you hear what they're saying? Do you understand the ramifications of this? Do you understand where this is going? This is going to the cross. Do you understand? But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge. Now, right here, I want Jesus to say something, okay? Say something, okay? You don't have to say what I would say. In fact, I recommend not, okay? You don't have to do what I would do. You don't have to blow a gasket. But say something. This is a great opportunity. You're in the center stage of the world. You're in Pilate's office, you know. This is a great chance for you to say, no, who I really am. Tell us who you are. That's why you're here, right? You are here to tell us who you are. You are here to tell us what you're doing here. You're here to describe to us your mission in the world. This is it, right? This is the greatest moment, and maybe Pilate will even join you. Wouldn't that be cool if Pilate joined you? So say something, please. And it's almost as if Jesus has decided that in his silence, he's saying more about who he is and why he's here than he could with words. It's almost as if he's saying, Rick, just listen. I am saying who I am. I am saying what matters. I am saying why I am here. And we saw, interestingly, just before this event in Jesus' life, just before this event, we saw that Jesus was explaining all this, right, in the garden to the disciples, about how all this is going to go down. There's going to be suffering, and there's going to be executions, and it's going to be bad. And Peter suddenly decides, Jesus, I will be the voice of shame for you, because evidently you have no shame. Evidently you don't have that voice in your head that's insisting you defend yourself like everybody else has, okay? So I'll do it for you. I will be the voice of shame for you. Never, Lord, I will protect you. Okay, that's the voice. That's the same voice that's in my head. Okay, never, Lord, I will protect you. And this is the first place, and maybe only place, where Jesus aligns that voice with Satan. He says, "Get behind me, Satan." Because you don't have in mind the things of God. You have in mind the things of men. And I go all the way back to Genesis and I say, what if Eve could have mustered the strength or the will in that moment where she was being told to defend herself, to fix this situation, fix this mess we're in, like Peter was going to fix it? What if in that moment Eve had to just say, get behind me, Satan. Because you don't have in mind the things of God, but the things of men. How different would things have been to be able to speak that to that voice? This was after Jesus goes through this. It says that Pilate was amazed. He's amazed. Who does this? Who has this capacity? Who has this ability? Who has this strength? Who has this understanding? Who has this restraint? Who has the ability to not respond in defense There's not a word of defensiveness. There's not a word of blame. All that stuff that we would do. And Pilate says, this is almost not a human being. When in essence, it's the only human being who has not been afraid to claim his humanity. Right? Eve said, I'm ditching the humanity. I'm going this way. Jesus says, I own that. And Pilate finds, it's amazing. I mentioned last week that I was spent a good chunk of time as a relatively enthusiastic atheist. And there came a point, which I'm making a really long story very short, but there came a point when I was going to church with my wife. And I started to want to believe. Okay? And then I thought, I want to believe. And so I started to try to believe. And I tried and I talked to people. If you go back to the days of Haven Church when I was there, they're like, man, this guy is. Okay? I spent hours with pastors. I went to Sunday school classes and I asked questions and my wife rolled her eyes, right? And like, oh my God, here we go again. And I read everything. Oh my God! And you know what? I could not force myself to believe. I just couldn't do it. And so eventually, I had this conversation with myself. It was actually a verbal conversation, and I said to myself, "I quit. I quit. I can't make this up. I can't do this. If Jesus wants to do this, He's going to give it to me later. But for right now, here's what I'm going to do. Okay? Here's what I'm going to do right now. Is even though I don't believe, I'm going to follow that man. In my unbelief, I will follow that man. Because I saw how he was with, I thought, if I can live that life, I will have lived my life. Not the life being dictated to me by my psychology, by my peers, by this, by that. I will have lived the life I want to live if I can follow that man. And Pilate was amazed. When Jesus finally speaks, it's at the cross. And crowds are around. There's people casting lots for his clothes. I mean, what could his clothes have been worth? It's not even worth putting a dice game together, I wouldn't think, but they're casting lots for his clothes. They're shouting at him. And when he finally speaks, these are the words that comes out. Not defensiveness, not rage, these are the words that come out. They're compassion and empathy. He says, forgive them, Father. Compassion. They don't know what they're doing. Empathy. Leading shame researcher, who's a professor in Houston, Brene Brown, maybe a lot of you, I've quoted her a lot in my book, and I don't even know if she's a Christian, okay? But here's what she'll say. She'll say, if you want to defeat shame, here are the 3 keys to defeating shame, okay? Empathy, compassion, and vulnerability. So if you make believe that scientists come to realize that we got a shame problem here, people. They come to realize that we have a global shame issue that's causing all of this stuff. And we need to concoct for ourselves a savior. Let's all get together, scientists, because we know how to fix this. It involves vulnerability, compassion, and empathy. So let's get our test tubes and our beakers out, and let's concoct this human being to lead us out of this. And the scientists would say, would concoct a human being that looks just like that man. They're agreeing with us. And then, from that cross, figuratively, but from that cross, I see him look at me. Forgive them, Father, they don't know what they're doing. And then it's like he looks up with that, you know, the look that kind of goes right through all the fig leaves and the masks and it cuts right to your guts. okay? It cuts right to your guts. And he looks into my soul and he says this. He says, "You coming? Are you coming?" I don't care if you don't. Are you coming? Because if you are, this is what it looks like. And he describes it. In Mark 8:34, you need to deny yourself. Deny what the world is insisting you do. Deny your inclinations towards rage and defensiveness. Deny your inclinations towards anger, towards fear, towards perfectionism. Whatever the world is laying upon you, deny all those inclinations. And pick up your own cross. Okay? This self-hatred that the world is going to be dumping on you, carry your own cross. You do not have to own it, Rick. You do not have to own that. 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 You must not, you do not have to own that, but you got to carry it. That's the game plan. And when you look at that world that's handed you that, through their need to transfer that onto you, you don't offer back defensiveness and rage, you offer back compassion and empathy. And some versions will even add this word, this important word right to the end. They'll say, pick up your own cross daily. Every day. See, I want God just to fix this, right? I want him to pull me out of this mess that I'm in. I want him to just, but this is our world. This is the place we live. This is the post-Genesis world we're in right now. Okay? This is the place we exist. This is going to be a daily fight, a daily battle because of the world we exist in. However, we do not have to be slave to that world. We do not have to be slave to those decisions. We have a freedom to make a choice to instead follow that man. Follow that man into a place of vulnerability, empathy, compassion. Not because you have to, but because you're free to. We are free to follow him into freedom. And Jesus says, it's kind of a big deal. There's a lot at stake. Verse 35, whoever wants to save his life was going to lose it. But whoever loses their life on account of me, because of this, and for the gospel, will save it. And in this context, Jesus is not talking about where we go when we're dead. He said, this is how we live while we're alive. What does it profit a person to gain the whole world and forfeit the soul?